Look, y'all, if you really want to win a game over an opponent, you had best know what makes them tick. What will they do in certain situations and why? Understanding tendencies are critical keys you can use to your advantage. It's no different with elk, y'all. By first understanding their thought process and instincts, the things that make elk act or react in a certain way, you have a huge advantage in determining your situational moves, finding elk, or hunt strategies. On today's show, elk hunting logic, behavioral and motivational keys. That discussion, our listener shout outs, and questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for our blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, and joining me today, that's right, we got an A-team list today, fellas. We've got the world champion elk caller and owner of Wapiti River Outdoors that produces our sugar and grinder call, Mr. Travis O'Shea, our brother from the north, is in the house. We've got your elk hunting coach and owner of the Western Contours podcast, Western Hunt Fest, and Western Fly Covers, Mr. Guy Duplantier is in the house. We have the legend from Cuesta, New Mexico, Mr. R.C. Knox, and WWJGD is in the house. What would Joe Gillia do? What's up, fellas?
Hey guys.
Boys, what's happening?
Dude, man, I feel so small, man. I mean, here all these guys, I'm like, holy crap, man, I'm just not worthy.
I put you up there with Jesus, baby.
Yeah, I was going to say.
WWJGD.
No.
Can't get no better than that.
Do not even go there, man. Don't even. Don't even. Look how red I get when you do stuff like that.
Yeah. Just
I think it's just the age thing, not the class of person. It's the age.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Wapiti River and Mr. Western Contours, and man, R.C. Knox, man. I mean, most people do not know that this guy, this cowboy over there, has more Western knowledge and experience and stories and, man, things that have the history in his family, man. I mean, it's, I could sit back and listen to him talk, or, God bless his soul, his dad Slim talk, man, and the things that these guys know and what they've been through, and every wrinkle that they have has got a story behind it, man, or weather conditions, and they've been through it, so cool, man. It's
Well, you guys all know I can talk the leg off a wooden Indian. I get the distinct pleasure most every year to hunt a few days with the legend R.C. Knox, and he will talk you into a stupor. I promise you, man. you gotta pry it out of him, man. But once you get him going, dude, you're gonna get a whole bunch of really cool nuggets out that you can really dive into and understand these elk a whole lot better, man.
Listening.
I love that smile, man, because he knows what I'm talking about. We don't ever have any uncomfortable silences when me and him are in the woods. I promise you.
I don't know. Everybody's listening, man, and they're like, I remember, who was it? Somebody said on Instagram the other day, they were talking about, man, if you guys could get Chav and RC to be a little more quiet so Gilbert could do some talking, you guys would be a lot
We don't want RC saying nothing. He wished the trunk butt on me and you earlier, so I'm not hearing that man talk at all.
oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Even Chav jumped you last week, man. Chav he was like, what are you saying about me in the bathroom?
And it was you.
Yeah, it was.
So funny, dude.
Yeah, it was. Oh, hey, little news. Just want First off, the first thing I want to say is, because we always say this at the end of the show, but I want to change this a little bit. Look, all y'all that are listening out there, we always talk about how what we do is because of you, and we absolutely mean that, man. Where we are, where we've come to, what we've done is strictly because of you guys, man. And we try to make ourselves accessible in a lot of ways for that to happen. And what I would really like is, I want to make it even more personal. We usually tell you can send your questions, you can send your comments to info@elkbros.com. I'm going to give you my direct line. It's Joe, Joe, at elkbros.com. Things that you are wanting to hear about, questions that you might have, comments that you have about the show, what you like, what you dislike, what you'd like to see, what you'd hope that we would do, what's driving you nuts. But like Gil says, what do you say, Gil? Huh? They got to be nice, right?
No butthole.
Keep it real. Yeah.
Honestly, guys, send those in to me. I'd love to hear from you, even if you just want to say anything about the show, right? In fact, I want to shout out to Adrian Manavong from Spanaway. Adrian, I hope I said the last name right, man, but a shout out to Adrian from Spanaway, Washington. I put that post up, and he was the first person to send an email in, and so appreciate that when people come in and connect and make comments. That's what we're really about when we do this. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. All right.
Yeah, I cruise a few forums, Joe, on the social media pages and stuff, and there's still a whole bunch of people that don't know who we are, right? So
Gil's letting them know, because I see Gil on every elk forum, every elk comment in the world.
Yeah, so I've been hammering them pretty good, man. So, and I don't mix no qualms about it. I put Elk Bros out there and say, you guys, if y'all want to learn how to elk hunt, y'all need to check us out, right? At the end of the day. So, I mean, I do, and I'm very accessible. So if those guys pipe back at me, I mean, we got a full scale conversation going on. So
yeah,
it's been a lot of fun, but we still have a lot of people that don't know us.
Oh, well, yeah, I think everybody outside of Colfax County don't know us, dude. So, anyway, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it's really neat when we look and we're in like 20,000 cities listening and 80 countries and stuff like that. I mean, it's really, really neat to see that stuff, especially when we started with 30 listens, man. So that's really cool.
Well, I tell you this, man, when somebody acts a fool, though, everybody jumps on them. They're like, do you know who these guys are, man? You wouldn't be saying that if you knew who these guys were, especially Mr. Kirkpatrick. I got to give a shout out to Kevin Kirkpatrick, Cody's dad. And man, that guy won't let nobody say nothing, wrong about Elk Bros. Right. And neither will Travis. Travis will jump right in there in the middle of it too. So we all view some of those same things, man. Yeah, and I appreciate it so much from Mr. Kirkpatrick.
I'm a retired teacher.
He's a dear friend.
Being dumped on y'all, so don't worry too much about it. So.
I don't put up with it, dude. So at the end of the day, man, we want to help everybody get better.
Absolutely.
We want to help everybody get better and get our name out there. And for the most part, it's pretty cool, Joe.
Oh, something that has also come up. If you're not aware out there, Colorado is now draw only for non-residents when it comes to elk. So archery
for 2025.
Yeah, he moves to Colorado and then he's clapping.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, guy. Straight up, if you were in California, would you still be happy and clapping?
Reason I moved, dude.
There we go, dude.
People say it all the time. Oh, you're so.
But it's going to be
make
better.
decisions, right? I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you.
That's it. It's your life.
And if you're going to chase your passion full on, right? So I don't want to hear no guys put in for that draw, suckers.
I agree, man. Get your points up, boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be rough, right? It's going to be rough. They lowered the pool, the allocation for non-res, and now they're going, all draw on some of those seasons.
Yeah. So
honestly, I can't disagree with the move. I was hunting Wyoming. Wyoming did the same thing a couple times.
So that means that there's no more OTC for non-residents in the West, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Colorado, is there any other state that you can go OTC in the West? Idaho?
No, not
No.
Or
really.
did they change too?
No.
Yeah. Oregon at one time, but I don't think I'm not sure.
Oregon might still be, and if even
Gotcha.
if it's draw, I mean, you get into those easier, those units,
Yeah.
and we'll still have them for a little bit, but I think it's going to be good.
So good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to have a huge effect. There's just so many thousands of people that don't put in for the draw, that decide they're going to go elk hunting, and go to Colorado. Or there's so many thousands of people that put in for the draw, don't get drawn, and go and purchase an OTC tag in Colorado. That's been the go-to for a long time. That is no longer going to exist. So I can tell you this: I'm really afraid to see what happens to the prices of landowner tags in these states now, and what happens with we're talking limited resources, unlimited wants, that just got higher demand. So it's frightening, man, because I know what private land hunts go for in this state already. I mean, we got private land hunts, minimal guided hunts for, $10,000 to $23,000 in this state. So, it's pick your poison, man. That's going to become something that, it's going to be interesting.
Well, and being outfitters ourselves, Joe, we have landowner tags that we're selling. So guys, if you still looking for something from us, absolutely, please reach out. And listen, Joe's very careful about us not using our podcast to promote what we got going on, but we need to, man. This is a business for us. We're trying to, sell some landowner tags. And at the end of the day, if you guys have a need and a want, we got a way for you to go elk hunting, man.
But at the same time,
you reach out to us, we'll help you.
At the same time, and what I hope everybody understands and weighs in, is that we do all of this totally on our time for you. And like Gil says, you heard Gil just talk about our product and stuff. That doesn't happen very often. I'm just, I don't do much for promoting my academy, for my course, a lot of things. The main idea of this show has been, really to help you guys and give you an opportunity to be successful. So that's free content.
Come into elk camp. Come into elk camp. Welcome to elk camp.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, man. So with that said, let's start hitting some content, because we have an incredible mailbox question today that you're going to get partial answer now, and the rest of the answer later on as we're going in there. So, Guy.
All right. I hope I get this name right. If I don't, I apologize. I'm going to roll with Jazz.
And his last name is Williams. Jazz Williams.
Jazz Williams, okay. And JAS, in case I'm saying it wrong. Guessing Albuquerque by the way of Arkansas. So question number 1, when you see elk from a longer distance, what are some key things you're observing before you decide to commit to making a move on them?
Yeah.
Is it a bull worthy of shooting? How far is that bull away? I mean, that's, at least for me, right? I mean, as soon as I see a bull, I'm not going to BS. I'm evaluating them antlers, man.
But I don't know that he's asking that question, man. I think he's asking what are some things you're observing before deciding to commit and make a move on them.
Well, that is my criteria.
I'm not chasing something I don't want to hunt.
Right.
I think so. For me, is when I see that question, I'm like, okay, what's the terrain like? Where is he located?
Oh, absolutely.
Which direction is the wind going in?
Yeah.
How far?
What time of day is it?
Yeah.
Is it in the morning, or is he going to his
Honestly,
bedroom?
that's
destination.
What's he doing?
Is he in a bedding area? Is he?
What's a longer
destination?
distance, right? 1.38 miles last year when I spotted that 6 that I wanted, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care about anything but getting over there, right? So it's an evaluation of how am I going to get there? How long is it going to take? And then
the wind direction, yeah.
I didn't care about the wind direction. 1.38 miles away across a canyon. It doesn't matter what I think the wind is doing. Yeah. So it's, it's a matter of quick
so
evaluation.
when would you start considering that, Guy? When would you start considering your wind? When you get within half a mile of him?
No, I think I was because we had a general location. He was 1.38 miles away, then another 7 miles. So call it, in total distance. He was about 9 miles as we did the loop around him. I didn't worry about that wind until the last 2 miles when I was on foot, because realizing that he could move, some distance in a flat amount of time by the time I got to him. So then I started to be a little bit cautious about, the wind and things like that. And then the terrain, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes the terrain will beef you up a little bit. He was in a steeper area, but he was such a nice bull. It didn't matter in the moment,
Well, so Jazz, I don't know if this is what you're asking for, because I think when you say what are some key things before you decide to commit, it has nothing to do with the animal. I mean, when you look at the animal and you decide, all right, that's a bull, it's a legal bull, I'm going for it. I'm paying attention to things like, just exactly like that. I'm looking, are there other elk with them? Are there other elk in the area? Is there something that is distracting them? If it's the time of day, which direction is this bull moving? What are the thermals doing right now? What time is it in the time of day right now?
Yeah.
Because if it's the morning, and I'm looking at this, it's on no matter what. I'm going to find a way to get in with that guy, try to get up as much as I can on him. If he's talking, that's really changing the game right there. If it's in the evening, there might be some things that I observe, like if he's coming down, he's going to an area and it's too far away where if I get down there and I get in a bad position, I might blow him out. Well, if I know he's going down to there that's going to be his nighttime bed, I might even just back out on that and hit that first thing in the morning, make sure I have a better strategy on it. So for me, those are the kinds of things that I'm looking at when I look at the terrain. Like, I'm already checking out, well, is there an approachable way on this animal? Does he have the advantage? Is there some place where I can get the advantage? Can I get on the backside of a ridge because he's up on the upper 2/3 of it, and I can get right on the other side, especially if it's a bull that is, in the morning is moving up. I know he's going to use that ridge line. If I can get over on that backside of it, because wind does different things on ridges, whether you're on one side or you're on the other, if you're on top. So there's things like that I want to observe. I really want to take a look at his location, how he's approachable, what I can use to my advantage, thinking about the wind, thinking about the thermals, looking for other animals, because I don't want to get tunnel vision, because a lot of times when you move in on them, it's those other critters that are going to blow things up for you, right?
Yeah, cows.
So, yeah.
There is a point of diminishing returns and over evaluating that commitment and those criteria, right? So,
and for me, guy, how far is long distance? How far is he? Is he thinking 400 yards is long distance, or is he thinking half a mile? I mean, that's subjective, right? So we kind of need to know those things.
That stuff is registering in my mind in seconds.
Yes, exactly.
As soon as I looked
We've been
at
doing
an
this
animal,
a long time, bro. We've been doing this a long time.
It's the same thing as when a critter is coming into me, right? And I'm in a setup and that animal's coming in. I've already registered just about every shooting lane there is.
Yeah, where we're going to kill him.
What I got to do if he's going to one direction, how can I steer that animal? What's happening with, draw points and different. I'm in seconds, you're making these decisions, man. So, but I think, and he says elk from a longer distance right there, and I think that's what Guy was, working with right there. And if it's a longer distance, a lot of times I just commit to the point where I just need to cut the daggum distance, man. Right? So
you definitely want it in half and then half that again, and by that time you're within, 1,000 yards of him, and now you really got to dive in deep of what everything lays out in front of you. Like Guy said, I mean, where my thermal's at, where's my wind coming from then, but once you've made that decision that you're going to go, I mean, now you're committed, whether it's long distance or not. But for me, long distance, like Guy said, be a mile out, if I'm glassing and I see something in another canyon or something like that, well, chances are it's going to take you a lot of time to get around there. I mean, if you're trying to cross a canyon and you get in a vehicle, go back to your vehicle where you parked it, get in it and circle around like Guy and them did, 7-8 miles.
I've never been able to do that. It's always like, I feel like once I lose connection with them, I've lost that animal, man. So I don't.
The problem is, Joe, where easier for me to drop down. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say I could have dropped down had I had a way back up the other side, but that westerly side of that, the ridge he was on, it was sheer vertical. You know, they were running.
Yeah, I know how that works.
Vertical. You know, and I want to harken back to the last episode, right? And I'm just reiterating it because I see it and hear it so much. You know, what kind of hunter have you been? How assuming that you're hunting, right? I'm sure you've had some success. You can't just leave all that to the wayside because, you know, you're going from, he says, Kansas, so I'm going to assume some whitetail hunting, some turkey hunting, you know, to elk. You still have some skill in the woods, right? Don't just throw those away because it's a different critter.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'll throw another
Yeah.
piece into it. Could be that you see him and that critter's on private property or on the other side of a fence of a GMU or something like that. So
Yep, need to know that.
now you got to consider other things,
Barrier.
other possibilities. So
All
there's
right, I'll read Jazz's next two questions. So these next two questions, like Joe said, we're going to answer them in the main content.
There you go.
All right. So one, also, as you get closer to those elk, what are you still looking for behavior-wise? Two, and when you get really close, how do you read the bull's behavior to guide your next moves? Stay silent versus cow call versus bugle, etc. Assuming you have the bull, assuming you and the bull have been quiet at this point versus the bull has been sounding off and you staying quiet versus you have been making noise, but the bull stays quiet versus you both have been making noise.
yeah. So man, all of this is really what we're kind of diving into a little later. So I wanted to
we can
make sure
it.
that we bring these up within our, our conversation as we get down there. Right?
Sure.
And, everybody listening, y'all, this is a huge subject that we're pulling into tonight. This is most likely going to be a part 2, could be a part 3. But I really, really think that this is the thing that helps you guide your decisions and put you in a successful position, which we'll talk about more. All right?
Guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout out. If you're new to our show, just shout out to our followers in a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week. Get us started off, Joe.
Got it, man. This week's top listening city is best known. This happens around where we live too, man. For the annual Cow Flop Festival. You know what a Cow Flop Festival is, don't you? You guys know what a cow flop is? And sometimes they have different names for them too.
Cow tipping?
No.
Cow patties. Cow patties.
They're cow chunks, chunking cow patties.
Yeah,
chunking cow patties. Yeah.
But there's a competition where you put squares out. You mark squares out in the field, and they wait.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody gets to buy a number 2 and
Calcutta.
Calcutta. Yeah, and so you end up buying the squares. Let the cow go do his business wherever it happens,
right.
and that person wins off that square. So yeah.
Oh, I got you. That's cool. So they grid the land, and
like
whoever buys that,
it's
bingo. Cow crap square bingo.
Yes, sir.
Cow shit bingo, man.
Yes,
I dig
sir.
that. Cow flop.
Oh man.
Cow chip bingo.
I never heard of that here.
You've never heard of that?
No.
Well, you gotta try
Joe,
it out.
you made a comment about being in
plenty of cows in
Mexico.
Canada.
I told you we
I don't think we
Can
have
y'all
that.
gamble there in Canada, Travis? Man, y'all could raise some money doing that, bro.
that ain't gambling.
Totally.
It's not gambling, man. It's just
Whoa, whatever, bro.
In Canada, it is. They got Trudeau up there. That's gambling in Canada, buddy.
Gambling in Texas too.
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
people do stuff like that with scores and quarters on Super Bowl and everything. We do it with cattle here in our country.
That's right.
So.
I like that.
Interesting, man.
It's also I got off the subject. It's also known historically for the Eberly Tannery, which was one of the largest producers of sole leather in the world. The tannery was the area's major employer, but closed its doors in 2004. During Prohibition, it was a hot spot for bootlegging. Man, you'd think this was in my part of the country in the Carolinas. And old hidden stills are occasionally discovered in the woods. Where I'm from, you still find them working. Westfield, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Westfield, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
All right. This top
Yeah.
listening city has the oldest continuously operating pharmacy in the state of Ohio, complete with a classic soda fountain and an old-timey charm. And for the adventurous, there are several shipwrecks in Lake Erie near here that have become popular dive sites for underwater explorers. Rocky River, Ohio.
Rocky River.
Rocky
The Ohio
River.
Valley
Rocky
makes
River.
it.
I'm so bad at my geography. I was like, Ohio? Lake Erie? I was trying
Oh
to,
yeah,
I was like,
goes right up to the shores, man.
yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome, man.
Wow. Okay, guys, I got one here. I've spent a lot of time near this place here, fly fishing, because you guys know my next passion is fly fishing.
Yeah.
This place has
Wait.
this
You
place
never told
has
us that, Travis.
You
no,
never
no.
told me that. Are you
Love it.
serious?
Yeah,
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh.
Yeah. So this place has it's called the Elk River, and it's full of cutthroat, bull trout. It's dry fly heaven if you guys fly
That's
fish at
awesome.
all. So
Cool.
so this city's also home to the Terex Titan, one of the largest trucks in the world. The Terex truck is massive. It's a retired mining truck that stands 22 feet tall and 66 feet long. It serves as a prominent landmark and tourist attraction at the entrance of the town and symbolizes the area's rich mining history and the heritage. And this is Sparwood, British Columbia.
Barwood, British Columbia, Canada.
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 Yeah, your brother's is that to the west, Trav?
That's southwest of me. Yeah, way
Yeah,
down,
southwest.
way down. Yeah,
Cool,
but I'm
man.
telling you, it's set right in the mountains. The Elk River is like a teal, blue, green color for most of the year. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it's gorgeous.
Mm.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I have a friend.
I've seen a picture of British Columbia that hasn't been gorgeous, man.
Yeah,
Oh, no
I-
doubt.
no, exactly. British Columbia is awesome.
Oh
I got a friend
yeah,
in-
there he is. There's
I got a
that
friend in
grasshopper.
Montana. My buddy
Mhm.
Trav Jones ties these up for me. I do a lot of tying on my own, but this is a special one that we use
Oh,
down there on the
man.
Elk River.
That's
So
cool.
it's foam body.
It looks
White
like one of
top,
the
you can really
Avengers
see it.
of flies, man.
So it's a floater.
Oh yeah, it floats. Yeah,
Oh
foam
yeah.
body.
Yeah,
The white
that's
Antron,
right.
just so you can really see it really good. And then it's
Yeah,
got the legs there.
I like it.
And look at the colors of the body.
Cool.
So cutthroat trout
Purple.
just
do
go
y'all
crazy
have to
over
use
stuff.
a barbless hook? Y'all
Yes,
have
sir.
to use
Yeah.
a barbless hook?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Most places it's single barbless hook. So
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
for those folks
So
that
that's awesome, Trav.
there ain't no catch and release where I come from.
oh yeah.
Catch and release in the grease.
pan of grease.
Yeah.
Trudeau don't let barbs on them hooks up there. Hey, I'm gonna interrupt this for a second because Joe, we just got a DM from Keith Durr, and I'd like everybody to pray for his wife. She's just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I don't want to let that
Dadgum.
linger. So, Keith
No
is a
good.
really good friend of mine. He supports everything that I do. He's out at Western Hunt Fest. Just a heck of a guy. Service to our country for 25, 30 years. So we definitely love our brother Keith, and we'll be saying prayers for Lori there. So just everybody keep her in your thoughts, and hopefully everything goes well over the next few months with that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Yes, sir.
A punch in the
Appreciate
gut.
that, guy.
I can tell you what, Keith, man, I believe in miracles and I believe in the power of prayer, bud, and we're sending it
Absolutely.
your way.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Her name's Lori.
Yes, sir.
I'll send her name to my mom and have them put it out on the Oilfield Prayer Network, brother. So they'll be praying for her all over the world tonight.
There you go.
That's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's horrible, man. This disease just touches so many people, and
Yeah.
dadgummit, we just,
Mhm.
there's got to be
Yeah.
some way to fight this stuff. Hopefully they caught it early, man. And I've got some friends of mine that have gone through it. It's treatable if they catch it early for sure.
Yeah.
So
I don't
nobody
want
definitely wants to have
talk
to
all
go
the
through that.
details, Gil, but you're on that
Yeah.
DM. So is Joe there. So
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. We'll be praying for tonight and every
Yeah.
day until she's rings that bell cancer free, honey. Well, guys, the next city was a major venue during the 2002 Winter Olympics hosted by the United States. It was home to the Utah Olympic Oval. This facility hosted speed skating events and continues to be prominent as a sport and training center. This city is the second most populous city in the state of Utah, West Valley, Utah.
West Valley, Utah.
That's really
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for listening.
Yep. We appreciate
All right,
it.
man. We're going to jump into it. What are we jumping into, bud?
Main content.
Main content.
Main content. That's
the
correct.
main
The
content.
title of today's show is Elk Hunting Logic, Behavioral and Motivational Keys, Part 1. And look, y'all, this is so critical in so many ways. And I always hear so many things from people about, what calls to use, or like the questions we had earlier, how do you, what are you observing when you're deciding to do something with an animal, or let's say that you've got to respond to an animal, there's so many decisions that you're making on locating, calling, pressing, waiting, responding, chasing, setting up, closing the deal. Those decisions, y'all, are easier to make when you understand what drives elk behavior. Now, there is no true formula. There's no always right answer. There is no silver bullet. But when you understand what drives these critters and what makes them do what they do, their instincts and stuff like that, their thought processes, and the external forces that motivate them to act or react in a certain way, when you know that, you have just armed yourself with knowledge that's going to give you critical. I mean, you're going to be that doggone linebacker in the backfield looking at what's
Read the
happening on the
play.
other side
Yeah.
of the offense and reading those keys to help you make decisions, move in the right way during situations, or to develop your hunt strategies that are going to be more successful. So in what we are going to talk about, some of the things that we are going to cover here are going to be things like behavioral temperaments, behaviors for current long-term survival. These are the things I'm telling you that are all of this information that drives these decisions. Breeding instincts, their behaviors, needs, goals, movement patterns that are daily, annual, some of them that are patterned and some that are radical, why they are and why they're not, where they want to be and why. And we're going to kind of talk September through November. If you want to hear more about other times of the year, we can even kind of set that up. We can, or, kind of talk about that full circle. You always hear everybody talking about prioritizing food, water, and security, but there's also thermal regulation, and that's a huge one that a lot of people forget to think about on that. Roles within or outside the herd. Who's the decision makers? The smart ones. Who's in control? And I mean, that changes from youth to maturity as well, man. Time of year or time of day, how some of those things affect things, the pre-rut, rut transition, and, post-rut behavior, what and why each of those are. And I think we can pull those in with some of the other things that we talk about. And a huge one is external forces, human activity, hunting or predator pressure, weather or climate conditions. These are a lot of the things that, especially climate conditions, I think a lot of people forget about that a lot as well. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about and starting with. And so now that you've done that, now that I've done that and I've given you where we're going with all of this, I want you to understand that, for example, when people are thinking about calling and they're thinking about what calls they should use, that directly ties in to some of these areas right here, especially like behavioral temperaments, because I can actually pattern my calls to pull curiosity or a feeling or a temperament from the animal by understanding what type of animal that is, what time of year that is, and different things like that. So behavior and motivational keys. Let's begin to talk about those keys. Which of these areas, guys, do you really jump out to you?
I say it all the time, right? Bag of trips, repertoire. That's what it amounts to, right? Everything that's here, the larger your repertoire, the more tools you have in the bag of tricks, you're able to tackle most of this, right? And I think that we're stifled in the field by not so much just having one approach, but fear of the wrong approach, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at, like, Can you know everything that you need to know all the time? I don't think so, right? All you boys have been hunting elk a lot longer than me, and you're constantly learning, right?
Right.
That's
So
why
these
we
things,
do it. Yeah.
right? And that repertoire, that built repertoire, is just years of seeing and consuming things and learning.
Yep.
But as I'm listening to you go through those, Joe, I'm like, well, you just got to have a big bag of tricks, and you can't be scared to start throwing stuff out there.
No, for sure. And Travis taught me something last year hunting with him in Colorado that I didn't even think about, right? And it's
Canada?
because of
Oh, in
his
Canada. Yeah.
yeah, in Canada. He taught me something last year that I didn't even think about when you're dealing with bulls that have been, you've already busted them one time and they're getting a little call shy and things like that. And their curiosity is something that you want to play to, right? But they're a lot less wary when you're using a calf call, right, to get them to sound off and tell you where they're at than they are if you're bugling a gnarly bugle at them, right? Or using a location bugle or even cow calls. I mean, I'll never forget. Dylan and I sat in that area where we were calling those bulls the first 2 days where they were hot and heavy. I mean, you hit a cow call and I mean, they were going nuts, and you could bugle at them and you'd get back and forth. RC Knox was with me. So I'm not saying that this is something I only learned. RC got to learn it as well because he was in front of us, me and Dylan. But all we did for a solid hour was chirp like calves. Little calf sounds, little calf sounds. It took 45 minutes of doing that, and then the bull goes.
Okay, so everybody hears this. Everybody hears
"Oh."
what you did and what the result was. But what was the behavior and motivational key behind that and doing that, right? I mean,
The bull didn't want to talk. They shut up. They quit talking. They quit letting us know where they were, right? But they were there the whole
They're
time.
still there. Yeah.
And what Trav said was, we'll go in there and change it up and don't be as aggressive and just sound like a lost calf and some calves looking for their mamas. And he will finally sound off and tell you where he's at. And I mean, we were in there like, no way, this is not working. And then all of a sudden, I hit one little, and I mean, and RC and Brian were really close to the bull and they didn't even know he was there. Right. So, I mean, they were able to slip in there and dude, they were probably 200 yards in front of us and maybe not even that far. And they were able to slip in there and almost I mean, it was so close. RC, how close were y'all to that bull before you could have shot him? I mean, you were 25 yards at one time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we were very, very close. And I was going to say too, is those elk up there were kind of, it's kind of like I was starting to say, if I was a bull and I heard another bull bugle, I would say, what is wrong with that idiot? Doesn't he know he's going to call all those wolves in?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly what happened.
What we were dealing with. That's right.
Exactly.
So we had to take in
There
consideration.
you go. There's those predators.
Yeah. We had to take in consideration that we had the predators with us. So it really changed the way the bulls reacted. But Trav's little nugget of going in there and we did it on another area too, where we called a cow in, right? We called a cow in to within, I don't know, 10 feet of me. I could have smoked her if I could have shot a cow. But at the end of the day, it was those little insights that they know so well in that area that I probably wouldn't have thought about doing that to get those
what
bulls
was
to
the
react.
insight? Okay,
The insight was those bulls were being quiet and not talking.
So
right?
it was low vocalizations,
you needed to get their,
right?
Right. Yeah, you needed to get them to vocalize so we could move in and do what we needed to do without blowing them up because it's really thick cover. So when they're going to hear you coming and they're going to see you before you get there, right? So if you know where they're at, that's a whole different ballgame. You can actually get around there and try to find you a way through there without them knowing you're there, right? it was very genius like. I mean, it really was. I say that with all due respect to the how we hunt in New Mexico. Is we're super aggressive, man, but we don't have all of that to deal with it. What we were dealing with. Number one, it was warm. The bulls weren't talking all that much, and then we had the predators come in there, really shut them up, and we put pressure in there. And Trav said, look, in that pressure cooker, what's worked for me is just making little calf sounds, sounding like a cow and a calf, a cow and a calf, cow and a calf, cow and a calf. And do that until you get a response. And if you don't get a response, just back out of there. Right.
There's
that's
also
what we
a
did.
downfall to that cow and calf talk as well, man, for the caller in that area, because that can also bring a predator to you, right?
For sure. And it did.
Mhm.
And it did. It did. We had all them wolves come around us, and Dylan goes, you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, I hear it. Ooh. I mean, it's getting closer. He goes, we got to go. He goes, this is not what we want to
Got
be
to go.
in the middle of. We got to get out of here, man.
We gotta get out of here. We gotta go.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. When the man that lives there says it's time to go, we got to go. You know.
So I'm gonna
not
reel
real
this
scared
back
of it.
in a little bit. I'm gonna reel this back in that, like I'm gonna take, for example, behavioral temperaments. So like when I am deciding on what calls that I want to use, right? A lot of times these behavioral temperaments will kind of go in line with time of year sometimes, some of the rut activity, different things like that as well. But I know that there are things that I can try to do to pull animals to me. For example, it's early season, right? And, bulls don't have the testosterone going all that much. Or, we've got younger bulls that are hanging around the herds, or we've got some of those bulls that are now starting to try to, maybe find a cow and are starting to hang out or looking for some of those herds. So there's different things that I can do with my calls to create a temperament or to hit a temperament in those animals to bring them to me. Like when I go ahead and sound like a group of elk, I can actually draw them from their herd mentality. A lot of them want to be together, or they're curious as to see what's in that herd. It might come in for the curiosity of that. So I can do things that's going to pull them curiously, right? I can kind of tend towards that. I can kind of go towards that social need when I'm doing that, right? Of them. And it's not just doing a herd. Let's say it's early season and I start doing some raking, or I do a single mew like a bull. There's a social need in that, as well as a pecking order need for bulls that want to bachelor, hang out, measure, check out what the other person is like. Do you follow me on that? Are you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And we just gave you that scenario.
Right.
I mean, it was early season. We spelled that out with the bulls that didn't want to talk, right? So to get their curiosity to where they'll give themselves up was something that we had to understand that they're definitely territorial. They definitely want to, mark their territory. But it was very early season. We'd had them in there for a couple of days. Not only were we pressuring them, but now we had predators pressuring them. So the way to get them to at least sound off where we could make a move on them was to switch to that other tactic, right? So I felt really good about what we did, and we were inches away from making that happen. Otherwise, man, we just roll through there and blow them up.
So I'm going to give you another scenario. Let's say you have a herd bull. You have a herd bull that has cows, right? And you're actually moving in on this herd bull, and you're trying to figure out a way to get that herd bull to come into you. When you think about behavioral temperaments, you can deal with the bull, or you can deal with the cows, right? And what do I mean by that?
You gotta call his lead cow to you. You gotta sound like a bigger bull, call those cows to you. Then you gotta work your way in between those cows and that bull, so you can take him. It's the only way that you're gonna pull a herd bull like that, is to make him feel threatened in a way that if that lead cow starts coming to you, then you've changed the game. You really got to get the cow to react, not necessarily him.
So what are the ways that you can get that lead cow to react so that you can pull that cow over to you, right? And that's what I mean by these, these behavioral temperaments. There's things that, for example, I can go to a cow's maternal instinct, right? I can go towards a cow's need to have a bigger bull than who she's with right now, right?
Yep.
So I can actually demonstrate for that cow. So these are kind of the things that I want people out there to hear and understand what some of these are, right?
Yeah, I would play more to their maternal instincts before the rut, right? I would play more to their maternal instincts. Once the rut hits, it's Katie bar the door. Now I'm probably calling in satellite bulls while I'm trying to get to that herd bull as well, right?
Yeah, and I've noticed early season when you start playing to the bull, especially with those smaller, younger herd bulls, air quote there, is they'll start hooking those cows and then hightail it because they don't want to lose their little harem that they're,
Exactly.
they know they're lucky to have, right? So you start playing to that, you start playing to that little bull too aggressively, and he's going to hightail it. And that cow, those bulls are gathering. Those cows aren't in estrus yet. They're probably have not selected that bull. Per se, right?
Yep.
So they're going to get hooked and they're going to push on,
Which leads us to us not having to do that. We should play to the maternal instincts to the cows, right? And
I
that
would
calf
say
and
early
lost cow
season.
and lost calf is definitely something that'll turn them around.
Yeah.
Early and late. Early and late.
Yeah, I was saying it though more because of what Joe was saying and lending it to that cow calf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just early season because you can go wrong doing that, in that season or later in the season too, right?
Yeah.
So it's a flip of the coin.
Yeah. And my thinking is I'm kind of the exact opposite of that normally. Early season, I want to portray that I'm a bull that has maybe a couple cows. And I find that's going to bring the other bulls over. So, I mean, I'm not
and that
screaming my
plays
head
to
off.
what you do in Canada for sure, because you don't have huge herds of cows.
It can work. Again, it depends on the temperament of those critters, right?
Yeah. And where you're at.
That's right. So my first
I love
step
that, Travis. Yep.
when I go in anywhere, my first step is sit down, listen, and get a bearing on the whole situation, what's going on. If you sit and wait 15 minutes, the good chance you're going to hear either some cow sounds or you're going to hear a bull sound off. And then from that point on, you're really going, okay, now what scenario should I play? Because there's, you can play the cow calf or you can play the bull just, raking, pretending he's like, advertising for some cows and draw them over that way. But
lost cow too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or lost cow.
Yeah.
But you really have to, you kind of learn that as you go into it's a situational thing. But when I first started hunting, I would go in and I would listen. And from that point on, that's where I kind of learned everything, whether I'm going to chase after that bull or maybe those elk are coming my way already. You don't have to go anywhere.
If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our base camp elk hunting training camp. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
You don't even have to call. You don't have to do anything. Just let them keep coming, and you can slip over in front of them and get close to the trail that they're on. You might not even have to make a calf call, a bark, a chirp, a rake a tree. You might not have to do any of that. But
unless you need to stop them, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's a hell of a pearl, T, because
everything.
most people are so
Hell
wound
bent on
up.
calling.
Yeah, we're so wound
Yeah.
up about calling, and we miss the learning sessions, the training sessions that the elk can give us, right? Because I got to call. You didn't wait 5 minutes just to kind of assess the situation.
Yeah.
If you can't fire off and like, okay, that's what I hear, boom, 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 boom. Slow down, reel it in, right? Learn a little bit. Worst case scenario is nothing comes to fruition, but you didn't blow them out that side of the country.
I want to go to another behavior that Travis deals with over there, and we deal with too, and a lot of people don't recognize, especially early season. You get some of those bulls, especially I notice this with Travis, is like you go to one patch of bush there that has that one bull, and over at that other patch there's another bull, and over the patch, and those bulls have been in there getting ready. They've been doing their rubbing. They're territorial about the area that they're in. So when you go in there and introduce yourself as another bull, then they become territorial over that area, man. That is their location, right? So and that's a thing to recognize. What type of area are bulls where they have their lairs, in those, and you'll find multiple rubs.
Yeah.
Be up on the side of a ridge. They'll be within 10 yards, 5 yards of each other, all these rubs, because that bull just stays in his lair and rubs those things, and he'll work around his area doing his rubs, and that's his spot. And man, another bull comes in there, he'll become very territorial, right?
I got a question that lends itself to behavior, right? And Gil said earlier, we're in there, and then we have the predators, right? And for me, I always look at that the opposite way. They're in there, and now we're out there being a predator. Trav, how does that play into your approach, especially, with me looking at wolves in Colorado now? How does it play into your approach, knowing that you have one of the apex predators? Well, you guys got all three of them bastards, but nonetheless, right? How does that play into your approach as you're going into the woods? You're the outsider, not the wolves. How do you deal with that?
Well, honestly, for me, I don't even think of the predators, to be honest with you. I don't think of the wolves and the bears and the cougars.
So you have to.
Because if you did that, you would not go in our bush.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
So, it's just a matter of when I'm going elk hunting or whatever you're doing, I'm thinking of those elk, and honestly, I'm thinking of more the area that I want to be at, and I want to get to. That's kind of my mindset, because our area is different here. It's really thick, and the bulls have, like Joe says, their little layers. They're the bedrooms. Once those bulls are in the bedrooms, they're there, and they're not going anywhere. So that's kind of my key is, and that's what we had to do, like in the night calling stuff. We had to go through and do some night calling just to try to find them, because when you boys were up, it was hot. It was plus 30. Not much is talking during the day. It was just too hot. So it's a matter of trying to find them first off, and then, do a lot of Google Map, OnX map stuff, pinpoint where you think they're going to be and how you got to come in with the wind direction, and then just kind of make a game plan. But my whole thing is really staying on the outside and just really surveying the situation, I guess, is what I do. And then I make a game plan to move in. And sometimes it's really frustrating for me and who's ever hunting with me. It's a really slow process. But like Gilbert said, if we just rushed right through there, we're busting those out of the bedroom. Those elk could be, oh, dang, man. In our country, if they go a mile, you're not going to find them for 3 or 4 days. So if we rush in there and we don't survey the situation properly and figure out a game plan before we even do anything, I mean, that's wind direction, that's time of year, that's what the elk are doing. That's kind of step one to every day that you go out, no matter what. That's the morning. That's what you have to do. And that's why I love it. It's the chess match, which I don't know what's going to happen from day 1 to day 20, but the elk do. and that's our
Well,
that's our thing.
and
is
correct
we
me
have
if
to
I'm
figure 'em
wrong,
out.
Trav. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trav. It's reactive to you're reacting to the predator being there, right? If you've called predators around you, now we have to react to them, right? Because they're
Yeah.
very vocal. The predators are vocal, and they're going to let you know. And once those elk hear those predators, they go quiet, man. They
Yeah.
ain't talking no more. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Then it's about being reactive and having to change your tactics up because the elk don't want to talk with the apex predators in the location, right?
Yeah.
So,
The,
so
on-
let's
the only thing you have going on for you, the bears are going to come in silent. Cougars are going to come in silent. You're not even going to know that they're there.
Right.
You guys witnessed the wolves. So that's one good thing because they talk and they talk and they talk, right? But still, if you're right in on an elk, if you're like 100, 150 yards from a bull, I just keep working that bull. And honestly, I don't even think of the wolves. It's just a matter of I'm there to try to see if I can get that bull. If those wolves start getting closer and closer, then yeah, you're going to want to retreat, especially when you're solo hunting or whatever. It's scary when you're with 3 or 4 guys, but when you're solo hunting, it's even worse. But I try to stick it out as long as I can because it just takes 2 seconds and all of a sudden that bull shows himself and you got a shot off, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't want to say that you ignore the predators altogether because I know they're always there, but once you're here and once you know they're there, it's kind of in the back of your head almost. So
Yeah, we
little
did not
different
go in
for-
there. We did not go elk hunting because they were there. I mean, we just changed our tactics up a little
Yeah.
bit so
Yeah,
we weren't
Yeah.
as vocal so the wolves could hear us and find us.
Yeah. Now, if you would have walked in there and you would have saw a grizzly bear, going through that cut block or whatever, that's a whole different story. If I see a grizzly bear, I'm turning around and I'm going back the other way because
Skippy, son.
smart
a
man.
black bear you can chase out
Uh.
and you can do whatever. And we have black bear tags in our pocket, so if we see one good, but grizzly bears we can't shoot them here. It's illegal.
That's a whole different level of defecation too, man.
Yes,
You and I
man,
saw a grizzly bear pile where we were
Yep.
hunting, and you were like, "Don't tell Carrie," but that's
Yep. Yep.
That's why our elk have left, brother.
I thought you meant
That
when you saw a
bear,
grizzly, it
brother.
was a whole level of different defecation, meaning you.
It sure was, buddy. I'm telling you, that's grown man stuff
yeah.
there.
That's right. So black bear poop, you just kind of walk past it.
No big deal. Yeah.
Grizzly bear poop, you have to step over it. Like it's a mound.
Mound.
It's not, like it's that big around coming out and it's a pile.
Huge.
So
and all kinds of fur and stuff in it.
I don't worry about black bears.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't either.
That like a
I'm
I
not scared
worry
of black
grizzly
bears.
bear. The other areas that I want to for people to understand in behaviors with bull elk, again, this happens with the different, like you take, you've got your pre-rut where they're doing where they're starting their pecking order, they're still in buddy and stuff like that. And then you have that rut transition, where now those bulls do have, and when you were talking about it earlier, Guy, when you're talking about those bulls in Colorado, those younger age class bulls, that happens a lot, especially you'll see them with 1 or 2 cows, right? They're just happy to have that one, that single cow there. And they're in what we call a protective mode at that point. They just want to keep what they have, right?
Yep.
So it's not like they're really looking to do a whole lot. In fact, your calling at that point is going to be more to pull the cow than it is to pull the bull, because the bull's going to come with her, right?
That's right.
And
100%.
And that's where those bull sounds that Travis is talking about is actually, because if you're a more mature bull, that cow's going to come to you, man. She don't want to be with this young dude that keeps harassing her and doesn't really know what he's doing, right?
If that ain't working though, Joe, if that's not working for you, what else would you use?
Oh, well,
if the mature bull sound ain't working, what would you do to call the cow to you?
Well, I'm using myself. I'm always starting with cow talk or calf talk anyway. I'm doing, things that are herdish to be able to
Yep.
pull there to me, right?
Yep.
I want to do those kinds of things right there as well. So I'm
How
usually
many
starting
times
with
have
that.
we done that, man? We've done
Oh,
that over and over
over
and
and over.
over again, man. And
And
I
then,
mean,
yeah,
it really works well in early season, man. It really does.
Hmm.
yeah.
Go ahead,
And
Trevor.
then you guys are moving in a little bit at a time, little bit at a time.
Yep.
Like we're not just staying back and calling and trying to get them over. We're moving in, we're moving in, we're moving in. And it's a slow process, but you're
It is.
calling and you're moving. You're
And the
calling and you're moving.
one thing we haven't said, right, is if you're an eye shot of those animals, right, plus or minus 100 yards,
Right.
I mean, you might be
Yeah.
better off just shutting up and pulling the sneak in,
Yeah.
and get it within your effective range, right, and then sending it.
Absolutely, if
finding
you're
the
an eye
body.
shot, because there's the behavior part of it, right? Is
Yeah,
what
use your
something that
terrain.
how is it that elk want to verify, right? They want to verify visually first, right? And
Yeah.
if they're hearing a sound and they should see another elk, that's a red flag. So
Yeah.
most people blow their situations, blow their hunting setups, blow their hunting situation because they're calling or trying to call elk in a point where they should be visual to that animal. There you are in camouflage, not moving. They should see another elk right there, and they don't. And that right there is a red flag. And they're not going to stick around for that, right?
Yeah. And the other side of that too is when you're doing that, Joe, like you just said, what people are forgetting is that bull that has those 2 or 3 girls now, he had 2 or 3 buddies all summer.
Yeah.
So those other satellite bulls
Around.
are on the outskirts of there.
Yep.
Any second one of those other bulls could come walking past you. And, if he walks by you at 20 yards, you're going to shoot him.
Trav, Joe and I one year we had eyes on these 2 satellite bulls that were off by themselves, and we were in a little clear cut. And we had Chav going up front. We were going to call these bulls in. We sat there for 35 minutes calling calf, cow calling, calf calling, all that. And then bulls didn't even pick their head up.
Really?
It's like, what? No, they could care less that we were up there making cow sounds and calf sounds. And I mean, we bugled once, something like that. And then Joe's like, all right, dude, we're going to drop back here and we are going to go off like a big party, right? And that's all we did. We sounded like a herd of elk, and both of them shot their heads up and were like, oh, man, we're late to the party. We hear a whole bunch of elk over there, and dude, they beelined it to us. And finally, I mean, it was a little bit too far for Chav to get the shot, and they kind of pinned him down because he didn't know they were coming. And when he looked up, oh, there they are right in front of him, right? And but again, we have eyes on the bull. We're in a clear-cut situation, a real stop and scan mark for them. We're over the top of a rise, so they can't see us, right? But they can hear us, right? They're not seeing elk. They're hearing elk, but they're not seeing elk. But we needed to sound like a big enough party going on to gain their attention, right? Just a couple of single elk they didn't care about. But man, as soon as we started introducing 3, 4 different bulls, 5 or 6 different cow calls, that threw them a different curveball, and that sent them into something. So man, if you got eyes on them, throw the kitchen sink in them if they ain't reacting, man.
That lends itself to the bullets, though, right? And what the point of the conversation is in my head when I'm listening to that scenario, that's okay. I'm being cautious because that might be 1 or 2 cows with the bull up there, and I don't want to go up there and get bullied or beat. But then I start herd talking, right? And there's security in numbers sort of thing there, and it's probably safer for me to go and approach that situation and kind of get into the mix if it's more animals up there too.
So let's talk about some other keys there too, though. Let's talk about it and why that was. So the bulls that were just small raghorn bulls that were down there, they were buddied up. There were 3 of them, and they were together. As soon as you see 3 bulls, small bulls together, that could care less about a cow sound, is because they have no testosterone. If they wanted to be with cows, they would have already left each other. These are 3 bulls together, man. So they're just not there yet, right?
Yeah.
So when we go up and we go over the rise where they should they can't see the sounds that they hear, and then they hear multiple bulls going, right? Multiple bulls that are bugling, all of these different cow sounds. Now the situation has changed. It's not just a cow that's mewing and that's moving with another calf. When they hear those multiple bulls bugling, what do multiple bulls together with cows in a scenario mean? They mean that there's a hot cow, man. There's a rut going on. And I don't care, you know, the fact that at that point they were just buddy-buddy. When they hear the show going on and understand that there's breedable cows up there, that changes things in them immediately to go want to check that out, right?
Yeah.
It's
soon
like,
as soon as they start rubbing that velvet off, the testosterone starts
starting
flowing
to elevate.
and it's going. Yeah. So that whole scenario Joe just said, bam, it's going to be gold. Yeah.
So
Man, it was. But it was like you flipped a switch. We watched them for 35 minutes, couldn't get them to even lift their head up from eating grass.
well, and
I'm serious.
they'd look and go right back. They look and they go right back. They could care less because about just a cow. They didn't want to be with a cow. But when they heard multiple bulls that were breeding cows up there, that changed, man. That changed everything.
So you guys did something awesome there too, because you guys are calling to them, you know, fairly regularly. Number one, you didn't spook them off. So you guys have practiced your calls enough that your sounds are sounding so awesome to these other elk that they're just accepting you into another herd of elk. You know, they're not running off, they're not coming to you, but they're not scared of anything. So number one, you guys are sounding really good. So that's the key, because practice. So any of you guys out there, like, start now. You got to be practicing now. And then by the time these scenarios come to you early season, you're not going to be scared to make a sound and go, dang, I'm going to blow these elk out of, you know, do I cow call? Do I calf call? Should I bugle? What do I do? You know, just to throw out a simple mew or a simple calf sound and take it from there. But you got to be practicing, like you guys said, you know, you're sounding good, so you're good to the elk.
What I want our listeners to really key in on here, though, is I want you to key in on the fact that what I've told you is that when you hear multiple bulls bugling, that means that there's a rut happening. That means that there's a cow in estrus. That means bulls are lining up that are wanting to breed, man, is what's happening there. So you got to have that key. And the other thing I want you to understand is this. Before, when we were doing the cow calls, if we did a small bugle, if we did any of that at those three raghorns down there that would just lift their head and go down, we are calling at them, trying to engage them. Okay? Now, the tactic changed. We went up over the hill where they couldn't see us, and we put on a rut fest, what we call a rut fest, right? A herd up there with multiple bulls. And we were not calling to those bulls anymore. We were calling to each other. We were engaging in elk activity, creating a scenario, painting a picture of multiple bulls, lots of cows, different things going on up there that now had nothing to do with them. And so now their interest is piqued to come check it out and pull them by our shooter. Okay. So that's a point that I want you to understand, because there's another behavioral temperament that starts to happen later on. We talked about protective, where they're trying to keep them, that they want to keep them. And sometimes that protectiveness is just they're hooking and keeping them away from you. But then they can become possessive. And then that's when you have the opportunity for either fight or flight with that. Right. And you got to understand that. Like, let's say I'm in a situation. I've got a herd bull. Okay, he's on one side. I've got cows over here. This herd bull has been, man, if you understand elk behavior, if that herd bull has been screaming and other bulls have been screaming around them, that's because he's been tending cows that have been coming into estrus. He's tending them till they come into estrus so he can breed them. He is not the only bull that's going to breed a cow. Right?
That's right.
He can't continue
100%.
to do that. Other bulls are now lining up and competing to be able to breed that cow. Thus, that's where all those sounds come from and why. All right? So, you've got to understand that I've got this bull that's over here and I've got his cows. Now, if I'm able to get in between there, between that bull, I can now choose a call that is either going to be at his cows to make him, let's see, more possessive than having to challenge him directly where it's fight at that point. If I'm talking to his cows by doing some kind of demonstration, by using a short, small aggressive bugle, maybe trying to round them up with a small roundup bugle, if I'm doing that, I am talking to them. I might get that bull to come at me just because he's trying to keep me from taking his cows. The other option that I have is I can do that. As soon as he screams, I turn and cut him off and directly challenge him. And now it's fight or flight, right? So a lot of times when you challenge a bull, understand fight or flight. That means he can turn, hook his cows, and go off with them, or he can face that challenge and come to kick your butt, right? What's going to happen in that? Sometimes, you're going to throw your, you're just going to throw yourself into it and try it, man. Right?
I think that depends on distance too, right? I mean,
it does.
I've had a scenario
How
where,
close are you in that bubble?
If you're in that bubble, they're coming, right? And I got excited, and we're in open country, and I'm going back and forth with this bull, and I have him coming across, and you get lost in the moment of battling with them. And man, he realized, why am I going way over there? I'm leaving my cows. And I mean, man, he was midway between me and them cows, and he freaking flipped the bitch and took off the other way, and all the they left. They went to private, and we tried to get them for a couple more 3 days. But I think distance has a play in that. And then going back to what we were talking about, or what you were talking about, JoJo, is at least for me, right? And this is everything that I'm stating is based on my experience of what I've seen, right? And I'm sure I've seen different things. So when you're talking about getting up there and you got these three smaller bulls that aren't interested, and you get up there and you start, putting on the rut fest. In my head, if you got two bulls, this scenario, you got two bulls, cows chirping, bulls going back and forth as we're calling, it's an opportunity for those smaller bulls to move in, right? You're not necessarily bringing them to those bulls per se. You are letting them know that, hey, you might have an opportunity up here while these boys are battling back and forth to go in there and nab yourself a cow.
Yeah, they're going to be able to look from the outside, man, and they're going to be able to, they might just stay on the outside. It depends on what the situation is, or they might decide, hey, I can go pull me off a cow here, right?
I think a lot of those times when we address the bull in that scenario that's vocal, most of them I've seen are going to want to come see. They're going to want to see what's challenging them, but again, like you said, Guy, it depends on that expanse that we're dealing with. Are we dealing with an open meadow that's in between us, or are we in the trees with them, right? I've had them be a whole lot more, man, I'm coming no matter what, in the trees where we're in close quarters, because they really can't pick you up, than I have been in a small opening or even a little valley that they're in right there. They really want to stop and stand their ground in that valley because their cows are behind them, and they don't really want to cross that opening. But if I'm in the trees and I hit that bark, scream, bugle, they really roar up in there, right? Because they want to see what that is that's challenging them, right? So I think Guy hit on a beautiful point of where are we within the bubble, right? Well, what is our terrain?
And where are you within their bubble or the herd bubble? Because if you're keeping that 80-yard distance and his cows are behind him, he's less likely to come your direction. He wants to stay and protect those cows. So the closer you can get in,
that's right.
Yeah, if you can flank him, right, just on the outside of his cows. But if he knows that you are in between him and his cows, or in proximity of his cows, he's more likely to come into that scenario for the fight and not the flight.
That's right. Yeah, he's less likely to move further away from his cows. But if you get in between him, he's always going to move towards his cows, right?
And
he's not leaving them.
I don't like to say in between them, right? Because people will blow that. right?
Yeah.
So work
Good.
that bench, and just, scenario wise, if you're on the bench and you can get right next to his cow, still stay in a safe distance where you're not being seen or blown by, however many eyes are on you. If you can get that proximity, if you know where those cows are at, man, I think you're going to fare a lot better.
That's
And you
where
guys hit perfectly on a behavioral thing there. If you're in the opening, those bulls are going to hang out and want to look more. Versus Gilbert just said, well, when you get a bull that's in the bush, in the trees, he's more to come after you and bugle at you because that's their behavioral, In the open, they don't want to be
visual.
in the open. That's scary for them. But in the trees, they're comfortable. That's where they want to be, and they can do their elk thing.
And
So
they can't see
that
it.
was great.
And they
That's
can't
one thing I
see
was
as
going to
well.
say is the thicker the
Yeah.
better, man. That
Definitely.
because when it's
Definitely.
thick, so for our listeners, the reason that in the morning when those bulls hit the trees, you hear them bugling so much as they're going away is because they are in the trees now. It's thicker there. They don't have all the visualization of their cows, so they're advertising themselves and where they're at, so that the cows know where they're at, and he's going to hear the cows responding back to him. So
Yeah.
when I'm in a situation with elk, I love it. The thicker, the better. And we talked about this last week because I can actually reproduce some cow sounds. And now if I do a bull, I'm right in amongst him and he doesn't know, he's going to be screaming because he's not able to identify where everything is. He's going to come more over there because he's not able to identify where everything is. So I can actually portray cows in the area that he doesn't know are not his cows. And then another bull is in the mix now. So we're able to get very tight and close that way. And some people would get frustrated because they're like, well, I couldn't get the clear shot. Well, that can happen when you have a lot of visual area because they don't come in close enough. I'd rather have them where I'm working on getting that shooting lane when they're in tight. And when they do, I know I'm having a 15-yard shot. That's like my favorite situation to be in.
Well, and Joe, that's perfect because when it's thick like that, and they're moving away, like first thing in the morning, they're going from feeding, they're going to the bedding area. That's perfect because now you can get off to the side of them. You can let that whole herd go by. Once that whole herd passes, you give one little cow mew.
And he's going to collect it.
That bull's going to come around, try to round you up, collect you up, and bam, you have the bull all to yourself. And like you say, it's going to be a 10 or 15-yard shot because he's coming looking for you.
I killed
one
a
simple
bull.
cow mew.
I killed a bull, man, right at legal shooting light, man, because just that. They were in water. His cows started to leave. He's trailing his cows. Again, another behavior. Guys, understand this. When you talk about why bulls are doing things during the rut, they are not making the decisions. Now, they can hook and expedite where cows are going to, but it is the cows that dominate the situation. They determine where they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep, who they're going to breed with, who they're not going to breed with. So these are all behaviors that control what that bull's going to do. So when those cows started to leave that water, that bull is just trailing where they're going. He's looking for them because they're now inside the trees. He's screaming because he's like, okay, I'm here. Make a noise so I know where you're at. All I did was throw a cow call, back off away from him across the front of me. One of my favorite things to do, y'all, is if I have a bull over here, I throw my call in a direction so he's going to cross in front of me into an area across away from him so that he crosses my face. And that bull comes, man, he's got a cow. He's going to go collect that cow. So he goes over 12 yards. It's a done deal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm already working a bull and other guys are just coming out of camp on four-wheelers, at daylight.
Joe,
So,
Go ahead,
Joe.
Chad. Go, Chad. No,
I was just going to say, as Joe was moving in there, he's already got the wind in his favor. He's got all the boxes checked. Boom. That one cow call that he does, that bull's coming. Done deal.
Seal the deal. This bull right here that's above me, right here, you talk about behavioral knowledge. Okay. We're in the middle of a rut fest. It is going bonkers. Multiple bulls going off. This bull's going off right here. And Joe instinctively knew because of the behavioral tendencies of these animals. Tell us how you knew where that bull was going to go, Joe.
Well, from where he was, I mean, I already knew where the water was at that point. He was going to hit it as he was going to a bedding area. He already heard us announcing ourselves as cows, as a group of cows over further off to our right. He's off to our left. He's using the land as he's going around, and I knew that he was going to hit the water as he was on his way going to bed. That's the way I figured.
We didn't have visual of him, did we?
No, but I could
Did not
listen
have
to him
eyes on him.
moving. Yeah.
Yep.
And as he was moving, I knew he was moving to us because of where we were throwing our calls. Again, we were not announcing. One of the worst things that you can do is announce your calls where you're standing. Being directional with your calls is huge, man. And so what I do
Explain
is I
that,
throw
Joe.
those calls.
Yeah. Explain it with your tube.
Yep. I go ahead and so I'm going to be throwing my calls, man. I never want to. I never want to call at that animal. I mean, that animal has me pegged here now. So if that bull's off to that side, I'm throwing it off that direction. Okay? I'm trying to, and especially if I'm a little bit on top of a ridge, even a low finger, when he's over on this side, I'm going to throw it across it so he can hit that knuckle and come across and try to look for that animal on the other side. Because if he does that, he's going to have his stop and scan spot. Look, y'all, elk always stop and scan because that's part of their survival mode. See, we're going to talk about behaviors for current long-term survival. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But elk want to visually, when they hear something, they want to visually confirm that, right? That's what they want to do. So when they come to a new terrain, they're going to stop and they're going to scan that area. If I'm throwing my calls down into an area over here towards my right, he's coming to my left, he's going to come up and stop right in front of me to scan down into that area, giving me the broadside. So I love to throw my calls from one side to the other like that. That's just...
What was amazing to me is Joe understood the behavioral characteristics of these elk so well, and he knew where that bull was going. It wasn't like we just had to move 50 yards and we're in position. We had to sprint 250 yards to get to where we were going to be in position to make a shot on this bull. And I'm like, where are we going? I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, why are we going away from this bull? The bull was coming to us. I just didn't know that, right? Joe knew the bull was coming the whole time. And we actually, I'm telling you, we sprinted 250 yards down a clear cut and went around and dove over another little rise, got in a little traverse. And this bull actually, we're not even settled in there. And the bull comes to a stop and scan mark area and decided either way, I'm going to cross a barrier and still come to Joe, right?
He's going to jump a fence,
it was,
right?
Yeah, he jumped a fence. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal that I, as a young hunter, I mean, I'm serious. I've been elk hunting like 3 years. As a young hunter, that Joe knew all of these things that was going to transpire. And we never saw the bull until he jumped the fence, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly but Joe knew exactly where the bull was going to go.
But not only
because of him understanding their behavioral tendencies, right? And we're in the middle of a rut fest, right?
Yeah.
What Gil's not saying is that I had actually set up a decoy on the far end because where they like to come off this finger, where this pond is a big long clearing, and what I did was I gave them a visual at the other end. I set up a decoy at the other end. So I knew once that bull even got close to the stop and scan to check that area for the water, I knew he was going to see that decoy on the other side.
You think he saw it up there?
Oh, he absolutely
he was
saw
really
it.
Reacting to you,
Yeah.
You think he saw it? I mean, that was definitely something we had in place, right?
He pulled because of the calls that I was throwing in that direction. And but as soon as he got there and at that clearing, at that stop and scan, saw that cow on the other
That
end,
sealed it.
that is sealed it right there, man. He jumps the fence, he comes, he walks, and when he walks by us, he's walking in a line towards that cow.
Oh, yeah.
So
True. He wasn't going to stop till you stopped him.
no,
Joe,
he wasn't.
Yeah.
So Joe, what were you saying to that bull in that scenario? What were you telling him?
So all I did on that was I was actually just being a herd of cows moving away. So many times,
Okay.
most hunters are always calling and coming towards elk, right? What I did, what I do a lot is, if I really want to be that real situation, elk herds don't care about the bulls. They're not calling, and unless it's that cow that is being an estrus and she's demanding that bull to come to her, right? But most of the time they are moving away doing their thing, and it's up to that bull to come into that situation. So what I did was I did multiple cows, a herd of cows moving away in the direction where I pulled that bull across and came over, and I knew he was going to come through and hit and look for that water. And as soon as he hit that and he saw the visual, it was a done deal. And that's why I ran Gil down there, because I knew that's where the bull was going, and I knew that as soon as he's going to stop in the trees and check, dude. Bulls do not want to go across an open clearing when you are calling on the opposite side, because they don't see another elk. If you have a decoy and they see another elk, they're going to come, but then you better be ready, because they're going to stop at a certain distance as well, and they're going to expect that cow to make a move or
do them.
do something.
You know it
at that point. But if there's nothing there, they're not going to do that. But when that cow was feeding on the other side, my decoy feeding, and we're talking 200 yards away, right? Feeding on the other side down that draw, when he sees that, man, and he heard all those cows, that looks like the last cow of a group going into the trees. And he's coming, right?
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Dude, he was upset too, man. He was not happy. He was bugling his head off, and I mean, when Joe stopped him, he was like, "Oh shit, is there another one right there?"
Well,
he stopped and locked up, and
he's screaming, trying to tell the girls to stop and come, wait for me.
Oh yeah,
and you're not waiting for him.
And that's what he was doing. He was advertising the whole time, and we're responding back to him. And if you've ever been in a herd on the move, they are responding, they are communicating, but they're still moving. It's up to that bull to continue to trail and to come after them. They don't stop and come back and gather him.
No,
it was a glorious moment, and one that we can teach with over and over again, because it happens to just about every one of us that have been in the middle of an elk herd, man. And for me, it was just a huge eye opener. And when Joe, talked about what we were going to talk about today, for me, it was a no-brainer to talk about this one scenario, because there were so many good teaching points in the middle of it, right?
There's
from
a lot
behavioral
of
tons, man. Tons. And this bull was so it was the first bull I ever killed in my life, not the first one I ever shot at. But at the end of the day, it's the first one we ever recovered and got put hands on. And I'm telling you, we worked. The past 4 days previous to that, dude, I like to die at all 4 days, man. I thought I was gonna die. I mean, we worked so hard and got so close multiple times, and then to have to, dude, I don't sprint anywhere. Okay, unless maybe a grizzly bear is after me, I ain't sprinting. And probably I just turn and fight and be my better deal to do. But we sprinted to go get to this bull. I mean, it was an unbelievable time, and just unbelievable learning curve to go through, and just know that these animals are going to react one way or the other. It's really depicting on you understanding their behavior, and then being able to speak the language understanding what they're saying. I think that's the most important thing when we're calling, is understanding what's going on. Why are we calling? Are we in the middle of a rut fest? Are we really early season and they're just kind of sounding off trying to find one another? Are cows coming into estrus, right? Those behavioral things are so important for us to know kind of the game plan before we go out, you know.
Absolutely, because if you guys
and then
were
it's
to
so
just,
reactive. It's reacted to every situation, man.
Yep.
I think experience plays a huge role in that.
Yep.
Before I forget about it, I want to talk about that principle, what I just talked about, the trailing cow before, that hadn't gone into the trees where the rest of the herd has, because people need to understand in that situation, people always hear elk and they try to go right up the rear end of the elk. They try to follow them that way. Now, if you can stay off, if you're not trying to get up and get a shot or trying to get in, yeah, you can trail like that up to a point depending on what the thermals do. But you have to understand that what I've always seen in that situation is the group of cows always have a sentry cow that hangs back. Yeah. And while the other group is just relaxing, and while that lead cow is doing her thing and moving up, that sentry cow is staying in the back and will just stand back there and stare in their trail, in their back trail for a long time. I mean, if they catch you moving, anything, they're just going to stay there. And a lot of times you'll be going and all of a sudden you see ears like that. And it's that one, sentry cow. That's why I hate to follow up. Number one, the bull's going to be following back. The bull is going to stop. He's going to be bugling. If they're going to bed, they're moving on. They're moving up. That sentry cow stays back, and then she starts moving up. Now the group of elk is 200-300 yards away from where that bull is, and he does a little jog thing or he moves up to catch them. And so now when you hear him the next time, it's like now he's 300 yards away, which means his cows are even further. And so it's really hard for you to keep up. Go ahead, Guy.
No, I was going to say, I've seen that in the lead cow too, where, they're about to break, off of a ridge, drop down or something. And I've watched, it was the year I was calling for Waddell and I made him just stop. He wanted to go after him. I'm like, no, dude, we're just going to sit here and watch. And I watched that lead cow stop, scan. She caught a guy down on one of the CO roads, walking. And she stood there for a good 20 minutes and she had animals kind of, getting off to the side of her, whatever she did. We weren't in the earshot. They come back around her, stood there. And then what's important, at least in my head, I have never, ever, ever, shouldn't say that, one time, and it was a raghorn, seeing the bull follow step to step with the cows. They're doing what they want to do in tow. Right, but they're never on the same trail. They're never
usually on one side or the other.
Yeah, I've seen one 2020, yeah, a younger bull, and he was in tow, step for step with those cows. Any other time, any bull that I've gone after,
they're offset.
Never seen it. Right, he's offset. He's off to one side. I'm watching those particular cows that year I called for Waddell. They start coming down the trail and this sucker hooks up and he knows where they're going. So he veers off on a different trail. Can't see him anymore, but you see all these cows. Right. And I lend that to, all the years of mule deer hunting, and you watch a whitetail, you watch a mule deer, them does and them youngsters go out first, and that buck will sit back and he'll hang back and he'll watch and wait and make sure that it's safe before, his approach. So I kind of, at least in my head, that's what the bulls are doing, right? They're staying out of harm's way. It's safer for them not to be in the herd until they want to be in the herd, especially on the move.
Well, they're also flanking and circling because they can't scent check when they're just, right there following everything. They are actually flanking and coming around so that he's more visual. His side and his horns from, the side of his body and his horns from the side are way more visual to those cows when he's flanking than when he's coming up from the back, like that. So he will hang back and he'll flank. He'll go from side to side, especially if they decide to stop. He's going to go ahead and work around because that's where his adversaries are going to come from. They're going to come from the flanks on the side. They're not going to come from, the back end right there. They might catch a scent, but most of the time those elk are hearing that bull advertising, and they're just like a good D-back, taking angles and hitting that from the side when they're coming in. So it's so important to understand these kind of dynamics like this, man, because when you understand that, you put yourself in a better position, to be able to get those shots. The one time that a bull might end up following those cows is when it's a situation where it's a path of least resistance, and it's about the only place that they can get through. That's when they'll do that. You've got places in saddles that narrow things down, when they come through. So that brings us to like some of their current and long-term survival things, right? And you can understand it in cows and you can understand it in bulls, and it starts to make sense to you why they do the things that they do. What is it that a cow is doing, when she's feeding so much, when she's looking for the biggest bull? Why is she looking for the biggest, strongest bull to breed with? It's because she's got to get ready to have a calf, and she wants to deliver the strongest calf she can to be able to survive. So therefore, she wants to find the best, strongest mate to be with. And that's why they have to eat so much. That's why, if they do have a calf, they need to tend to that calf. They're going to be in areas of best feed, and they're not going to be on things that are too hard for those calves to be in. Now what we think is hard for us is somewhat easy for them, but that's how it determines those places that are going to be what degrees. Like a bull might be, in that 40-degree stuff, and those cows aren't going to. They're going to want to stay in that 20, 25, 30-degree stuff and down on that, because they want it to be easy. They want to be able to put fat on their body. They don't want to be expending energy. And there's the word that I just used that everybody needs to understand about elk, is that for long-term survival, they want to expend as little energy as possible. So that's where passive least resistance, that's where saddles, that's where types of bedding areas, that's where they choose to feed. All of those things are so that they can expend as little energy as possible. Bulls are going to lose, man, from September.
100%.
Yeah, man, they're going to lose, 200, 250 pounds, man. That bull that weighs 700 pounds is going to end up being a 500-pound bull, 460 pounds, right?
Yeah. They look like a bag of bones when it's over with, man.
Well, they're going to lose more than that once we get the back straps off.
Yeah, the back straps and the hams off this son of guns. They won't have as much neck meat. That's for sure. Joe, I apologize to our listeners. We are really bull focused, and as far as their behavioral things and stuff like that, to be able to call them to us, because that's what we like to do. We like to hunt bulls. But let's say you got a guy out there that's got a cow tag and he's archery hunting, and he wants to call a cow to him. He's seen 4 or 5 cows. And I know this is off the cuff. Y'all don't throw rocks at me about shooting a cow, but I love to eat elk meat, man. And if one messes up and gets in front of me, she's getting it. So at the end of the day, when you see a few cows in the woods and you want to call a cow to you, Joe, and they're just, I'm not talking about they're in a herd where a big rut fest is going on or anything like that. I'm just saying you see some cows in front of you that are feeding you're in the trees. And how would you turn one of them cows and bring her to you in there for a shot?
Lost calf.
Lost calf.
Yeah. I'm going to go to their aunt, mom, and grandma maternal instincts, and I'm going to do a lost calf, throw it up, and they're going to come into that, right?
Yep.
If it's in a breeding situation, they're moving, I'm not going to change what I'm doing anyway when I'm trying to bring the bull in, because most of the time when I try to sound like a large bull with a group of cows, a lot of time those cows come in if they're getting close to being bred anyway, they're going to come to that, man. Again, they want to try to find the best bull they can. That
But if
bull,
they're alone, if they're just a lone pod of cows, you're going to their maternal instincts, correct?
Absolutely.
I've had lost cow work on that too. We called in half a dozen last year just running lost cow on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now if you do the lost cow and a calf, and then throw in some chuckles, like especially like calf galls and chuckles. Now those cows are going to want to come to that area as well, because keep in mind the chuckles are invitation to come over.
That's right.
So okay, I'm gonna
Good
play
stuff.
devil's advocate here, right? So if I start lost calf and I got a cow and I I know she's over there and I start lost calf, but then I throw in a cow on top of that lost calf, am I not telling that
You
elk that's
can.
over there?
Yeah, you
I know,
can.
but I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
Because I've
No, I hear
I've
what you're
had
saying.
that go the other way, right? So
Yeah.
oh, she's found. There's a cow over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. The
Right? Is
calf's
that
not
cow
lost
like
anymore. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be so fast to introduce another animal that you thwart the scenario that you were putting on, right? And I think patience, plays into how we approach it too.
Well, and I've seen it work. Just like Joe said. I mean, we've been in a set, and he's like, "Oh, you want to kill a cow?" And I mean, dude, it's like they're gonna run you over when they hear that, dude. He's like, "Oh, you want to shoot a cow? Don't tell me that. I'm gonna put him right in your lap, right?" So for sure, but I want our listeners to get that from Joe, because there's a lot of guys out there that don't mind killing a cow, man. And if they don't know what they're doing, they can blow that situation up as well. They open up with a big gnarly bugle, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want that dude around. We're out of here."
The hard part is generally, there's so many opportunities I've had to kill a cow, and that bull is just on the other side that I'm waiting for. So that's
You
not
and me
going to
both,
happen.
brother.
That's what
Yeah.
late rifle seasons are for cows, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
there
just
you
saying.
go. Cool.
I'm just saying.
Well, look, and even in the late rifle season, mid rifle season, you can go to that lost calf call and call a herd of cows to you.
Yeah.
I'm talking a colossal herd of cows.
Yeah.
Watched it, did it this year, and there were 6-8 bulls in tow with that huge herd. But had I sounded like a bull, I don't think they would have paid as much attention, and it might even went a different direction. But as soon as I introduced that lost calf, that lead cow took off like a bat out of hell down that mountain and brought the whole herd with her. So I've seen it work. And it's a powerful call, that lost calf call, man. It really is.
And I don't know if it's the right conversation for it, right? But there's a distinction between response and action, right? So you can throw the lost calf sound out there, and you may or may not get a response in terms of animal moving in, but you may hear a cow answer back, right? It's in my head, it's that emotional part of it, that pleading, like,
Yes.
I'm lost, where are you?
Absolutely.
That is what does it. The bull that I called in for Drew last year, right? Cow sound. Yeah, he looked up. As soon as I started just whining at him, pleading, that sucker was smoking the dew off of the grass. So I think, putting that emotion into that and understanding
Great point.
that behavioral aspect of, hey, I'm talking to you versus, hey, I'm asking you or telling you. Better said, I'm telling you what I want you to do, right? And you have to be insistent on I'm telling you. They'll respond and say, hey, you're going back and forth with a bull, right? Hey, I'm over here. Okay, I'm over here. Okay, you come over here, right? No, you come over here. Right. And it'll go back and forth. That son of a gun that's 70 yards away gets tired of it, and he's like, all right, I'm out of here. Done. Totally quiet, right? So you really have to get into the emotional part of it and get very insistent on what you're doing to them.
Well, it shows how maternal they are too. The cow's going to come to that, and the bulls are coming to that.
Yeah.
That insistent buzz, which some people call the estrus buzz, and it's that insistent buzz that is really that's one of the things, like, hey, listen to me. It's almost, I mean, if you watch a group of cows together when they have a bunch of young ones and they're being very vocal, you're going to hear that, and they're like, they get very, very demanding with that. And that, when it's the same principle when it happens with the bulls and everything. They are demanding attention at that time. Sure. It's because they use it all year for different things like that. So it's a quality call to have with you to demand action on that. RC, I know that you've heard, you've been in man, cows and calves probably more than anybody. I mean, you see them all year long when you're on the ranch and stuff like that. Is the only time you hear that buzz during mating season, or when you see groups, do you hear that demanding buzz like that as well?
Oh yeah. You'll hear, especially if you get a calf that's lost or something like that,
Yeah.
they'll answer back and forth with that buzz.
And what do you, how do you see, how far do you see cows reacting on that?
Oh, I've seen them a long ways, 700 or 800 yards.
And react to that call and come into that.
Yeah, and they just,
Yeah.
boy, stampede.
Yeah, it's demanding an action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a chance, a buddy of mine just posted a little video where he came across a group of cows and calves just the other day. It was Adrian V. Hill from Game On. You can find him at Instagram at Game On, and he just posted one like that. And what's interesting is Adrian's sitting there filming from his car. The engine's running, and you can hear yeah, 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 and you can hear that S whine going. I call it an S whine when it does that, and then that insistent buzz and little calf calls. I mean, it is just blowing up with talk until one of those cows sees his truck and it's like, okay, y'all, go this way. But they're still making all that noise, and she's demanding them to go with her in a different direction, right? So it's great stuff to listen to.
I wish I'd have had the video of calling them. It was 712 yards. I called them down that mountain. And if there weren't 60 head of elk in that herd, there weren't, 100. I mean, it was a ton of elk. And I wish I was trying to get my hunter in position and stuff like that. So I didn't have time to get my phone up. Plus I'm calling, plus I'm trying to keep eyes on them the whole 9 yards. But I wish I'd have had a videographer with me, because it was the coolest thing you ever seen, with a whole herd coming off that mountain, and they are unbelievably vocal coming down there to try to find that calf, right? I mean, it's so many different sounds coming out of that herd of elk, and the bulls hadn't made a peep. They hadn't said anything. They hadn't bugled, nothing. It's all of those cows that are bringing them down there, and they're just kind of off the side in tow, and then once they got down there to the flat, that's when the bulls went, and then just multiples, then chuckling, and all of that. It was really cool. I wish I could have got it on video, but it taught me that, man, most of the time it's really better to engage that lead cow if you want the herd to, if you can engage her.
That maternal instinct is something people do not play to enough, man, on that. Yeah. Now, talking about other long-term survival behaviors that have happened with these animals, is one thing that you'll notice, guys, is that, and always remember this, because let's say that you're at a fence line, you have a bull that jumps over a fence, and he comes 20 yards, and you shoot that bull and you don't put a good shot on it. Guess what that bull's going to do? He's going to turn and jump right back over the way he went. Elk, part of their survival thing is it's like a SWAT team going through a building going, clear, and they look through another word, clear, and then they move over here and they go, clear. Well, they know that the path that they just came in was safe, right?
Yeah.
And each time that they say clear, that's a stop and scan. They're looking inside a door. They're looking inside a window. They're looking into a room, and they're yelling clear. And so that happens when that animal, if that animal comes in a certain way, he's always going to turn and go back out the same way. That is an important thing to know, because it took me a while to be able to realize this, but I had a bull that came over because I had a horrible setup. I set up probably 80 yards from the stop and scan spot. This bull comes over. I don't have the shot. He's looking for me. He should see a cow in there that's been talking. He doesn't see it. So what does he do? He goes back over the hill. So what do? Pendejo Joe. I cow call again down here behind me, and the bull turns and comes down the exact same place, stops in the exact same spot, scanning for that cow. Y'all, 4 times I did this. 4 times before I was like, man, and he lost interest and ended up going off. The next time that happened, the first time that bull went off there, I got my butt up. I went up there within 30 yards of the stop and scan spot and threw my call back down the hill. And guess what? Bull comes over, boom,
Killed him.
you know, because he feels safe in that position, you know, coming to that. So that's always something to keep in your, you know, and another thing too is the fact that they look for predators behind things. That's why you never set up behind stuff. Not only is it going to hurt your shooting lanes, right? It's going to limit your shooting lanes. If I have literally been on the ground, on my knees, arrow on my bow, elk come out into a small clearing that I'm at the point of some oak brush, and literally walk towards me and walk on both sides of me and walk past me, looking past me the whole time, right? So the thing is, you know, they're looking actually beyond you. So that's something to remember as far as those behaviors as well.
And I was trying to find this freaking video. It's a June or July video of these cows, just the cows bugling and buzzing like nuts.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh,
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, you and I hunted one time, and we had a herd of probably about 10 or 15 cows, and there must have been 12 or 14 spikes that walked so close I could have hit them with my bow. I'm serious. They walked that close, but we never moved, right? Joe was kind of off to my left in a little traverse. I'm up on the other side of it. They walked to the left of Joe, which is probably 6-8 feet, and they almost stepped on me 4 or 5 times. I even drew on a couple of those spikes, and they never,
Awesome.
I mean, they're literally 15 feet from me. And I drew, and he thought, oh my God, Big O's fixing to let it go. And I smiled at him and went, nah, I ain't gonna shoot one of these. He was like, oh my God, dude.
Thank
They were
goodness.
right there. Yeah, they were
But you
right
can
there,
fart and
man.
a spike will run in.
It's so fun though, man.
You know,
I
to
love
be
playing with
amongst them. That's how I think I learned better being amongst them. You know,
Yeah.
watching their behavior. and
absolutely,
everything.
man.
Yeah.
And when you can get amongst a herd and get in the middle of them, man, really get the sponge out and really start learning their behavior and what they sound like, their movements, the way they treat one another, their body language. You know, the whole 9 yards. You learn so much, man.
Absolutely, man. So, you know, we have just started scratching and I hope our listeners are picking up a ton from this, because in talking about and pulling in scenarios and talking about these different key points, we're trying to give you knowledge that is going to become your gut instinct. It's not knowledge that we want you to have so that you got to sit there and have paralysis by analysis. In fact, I think that happens more when you don't have the knowledge set, when you don't understand the behaviors, because you're so busy trying to figure out what they might do or why they might do it or why did they do that. So hopefully, and like I said, we have just hit the tip of the iceberg with this. This might be a little series that we do here, and we're going to do it as long as you're picking up. I'd like for you to throw us some comments, throw me an email, joe@elkbros.com. Let me know if this is helping you out. We want to continue this. We want to give you this information so that you understand these critters more and more. Fellas, would you join us again next time to continue this?
Heck yeah. You know I'm in, brother.
Yep.
Cool.
100%.
Yeah, why not? It's all right. Yeah.
Yes,
It's all right.
it's all right.
Look,
Yeah.
and Joe, we did a really good job with some of our scenarios of really looking after Jazz's questions 1 and 2 after his first one, right? So
Yes.
if he really dove into what we were talking about, some of that is really answered in 1 or 2, right?
Yeah,
Because
and
of the behavioral stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned Jazz, because before we get out of here, we promised he would do that. So Jazz talked about seeing the animals from a long distance, right? Then he says, as you get closer to those elk, what are you still looking for behavior-wise? And you know, from some of the things that we've just talked about right now, I would really be looking at what type of bull am I dealing with? You know, what kind of mode is that bull in? And I associate that, and we haven't gotten to time of year yet, but I'm going to associate that with time of year. I'm going to associate that with who is he with? Is he with a cow? Is he with a bull? Is he with multiple bulls? You know, I'm going to determine what he is. Is he a lone bull that is a mature bull like that by himself that might be territorial near his lair, depending on what time of year it is? You know, I'm looking for those types of things behavior-wise. Does he know I'm there? Has he made sounds? Is he bugling? Is he advertising? You know? Go ahead, Guy.
You just said it, right? Paralysis by analysis.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think I don't think without the experience that you can answer all those questions. I think you have to take the flipping chance, because either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, no matter what happens, right?
Yep.
And no offense, Jazz, but I think question number 2, or actually number 3, is a bit of paralysis by analysis, right? Joe can make these decisions on the fly. Gil can make these decisions on the fly. Trav, RC, myself to a point. You just got to do it. You got to do it, because worst case scenario is the bull runs off. If you don't look at it as a failure, say, right, and you look at it as a lesson, then you've just learned and you've added to it. Oh, okay, this is what I have to do. But man, looking at versus 5 times in a single question.
But what we're going to do is basically on your number 1, as I get closer to the elk, what am I still looking for behavior-wise? I'm looking that he doesn't know I'm there. I'm looking that I can still move in. I'm looking at my terrain. I just want to keep cutting the distance, right?
Is he aggressive? Is he responding?
There you go. You're not necessarily gaining anything from the bull. If he's quiet, if you've lost him, if you cannot see him, you're not really gaining anything from him. So you're going to have to dip your toe in the water and trick by trick, pull that out.
Keep rolling.
And keep rolling with it, right? But if you go, okay, he's not making any noise, you know, what am I doing? We don't know what mode he's in. If he's in transition and you happen to be on the side of him in transition and you sit there for 5 minutes, guess what? He's 400 yards away from you now and you done lost him, right? So I think there is an over analysis that can happen, and you gotta roll, right? Roll low
for real.
You go high.
And Jazz,
you got 2 scenarios that a bull's going to be doing. He's either going to be quiet or he's going to be vocal. In either way, there's a play card for that, right? If he's vocal, get him to respond to you in a fashion where he's either protecting his territory or he's inviting you to come kill him, right? If he chuckles back at you and invites you to come kill him, go. Listen to the invite. Go. If he's protective and he screams at you, go kill him.
There it is.
Get in his bubble and kill that bull. The big thing is, brother, you got to believe that you can kill the bull when you get him in front of you. Go, man. Make sure the wind is right. Make sure you can cover the distance you need to cover within the daylight time and frame, and go get in there. He's either quiet or he's gonna be vocal. And if he's quiet, we gotta go till we put eyes on him, man. We really gotta be slipping through there. Use your woodsmanship,
or put on a scenario and have him come to us. There's another option. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Yeah. You're gonna know whether he's vocal or whether he's shut up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make him tell us what's going on, right?
Hey, Jens, if you're listening, man, or I'm sorry, Jazz, if you're listening, bud, I want to invite you. It probably won't be the next one. It'll be the last one, because I want you to listen to a couple of these, and then I want to invite you to be with us on the 3rd episode of this, listening to it, and then while we're recording, and then we're going to actually pull you in, and we'll talk about some of these things and see if you haven't answered some of your own questions by then.
Get more into it.
Yeah, so we know that some of the things are going to be some stuff that we're talking about, and we're going to continue to incorporate your incredible questions as we go, because even though we don't want people to overanalyze, what we do want to do is just feed information so that you guys continue to have knowledge, right? And I'm really going to be curious to see how you handled this being with us, and let you ask any more questions and just join me and guys on the show. So Jazz, there's your invitation. Jazz Williams from Albuquerque. Looking forward to having you here on the show. And y'all, I hope that you're enjoying this. Again, send me an email if this is something that's really working for you. And we're going to continue this until we get through this so that you have all the knowledge bombs that we can give you.
Fellas, I hope you all like what we're putting out, because this is some really big time knowledge from some guys who've killed a lot of bulls, man. Joe Gillia, the legend RC Knox. I mean, we're talking close to hundreds of bulls that have died at the hands of these guys. These guys are the best in the world at calling and in scenario calling and stuff like that. I'm just lucky I get to hang out with these guys and pick up.
He's sandbagging, y'all. He's sandbagging. He's got it. He's doing it.
look well, it's because of these guys and their leadership, man. So guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and be sure to include your name and where you are, where you're from, to get in our Spin a Winner Wheel drawing. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And I'd be remiss to tell you guys, if y'all want to hunt in Mexico, look us up at ElkBrosAdventures.com, and we can help you out with that as well. And just a reminder, if our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your question to joe@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace out. Shout out to our brother Tony Gilbertson for taking the
Tony!
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The bearded elk
RC got
whisperer.
balloons.
Yeah, I got balloons again.
Yeah. And for our grinders out there, here's a little bit
Gotta be Louise.
or more music from our brother Tony Wintrip to close out our show.
Peace, everybody.
God bless, guys.
There we go.
I left my hometown young without a care in the world, chasing dreams I believed in, but I had to leave my girl. I was looking for adventures and gaining altitude and being a badass mountain man, just looking for that mountain view. I found my place in life way up here, where the sky is blue and the air is clear. The basins are full of elk and deer. There's no city lights, there's no TVs on. The stars are shining bright at night, no telling how long I'm gone. I'm a different man, I know, this time of year. I lean on that one side of selfish, like a pickup with one gear. I'm a short fuse and a hard to go. I hate changing things that are new. I'm just looking for that mountain view. I dream of every way of climbing this range, with a pack on my back and all of my gear, enough to last me 14 days. And I'm in ghost mode, and there